Good morning, everybody. Can everyone hear me okay? Yes? Welcome. Is everybody enjoying the Expo so far? Fantastic. My name's Melanie McGrice, and I'm an accredited practicing dietitian. I'm here today to talk to you mainly about food allergies. So can I start by asking a couple of questions? Who in the audience has a food allergy or intolerance? Quite a few. Okay. And who in the audience knows somebody who has a food allergy or intolerance? Pretty much everybody, just what I thought. So the reason why I'm here today, why this is such an important topic, is because we've seen a humongous rise in the rates of food allergies and intolerances in Australia. And actually, it's interesting to note that Australia is now the leading country in the world in terms of food allergies and intolerances. We have more food allergies and intolerances than any other country. So I want to have a think about why that is and what we can do to prevent that, because it's certainly on the increase. I remember as a little girl, we didn't have any rules at our school about what foods that you could take to your school, whereas nowadays I'm working with schools and childcare centres and play groups with all sorts of food intolerances. It's really difficult for these types of facilities to know what types of foods that they can be providing for the kids. It's even challenging for parents in terms of birthday parties and letting the kids go to different social events, because there's so many children who have different types of food allergies and intolerances. And so it's just become such a common issue that everybody's got lots of questions about it. So we want to look at what we can do, like why is it on the increase and what can we actually do about it? Because there's actually a lot of misnomers about it at the moment. So I'd like to start. One of those people who put your hand up who says that you had a food allergy or intolerance, can I get a volunteer to come up and tell us a little bit about your experience? So, any volunteers? Brooke, can I grab you? Since I met you earlier, Brooke came over and I'm speaking at the Priceline marquee today. And Brooke actually came over to ask me a few questions. So sorry to put you on the spot, Brooke. Can you tell us a little bit about your food allergies and intolerances?
Yeah. Okay, so I am fructose intolerant. It wasn't generic. I got food poisoning and it wasn't diagnosed, so I ended up in gastro, then secondary stomach infections, and it took them 4 years to work out what was going on. So now I'm left fructose, gluten and lactose intolerant, which has been great.
So, Brooke, can you tell us a little bit about what it's like on a day-to-day basis having these food intolerances, and how does it make life more difficult for you?
So one of the main things is that everything you make at home, like going out for dinner or social events, you sort of just stick to the same thing no matter what restaurant you go to. So I always get a steak and chips because it's plain. They don't add anything to it. And if they do, I send it back and tell them that I can't eat it. But especially at work for work days and that type of thing, I always have to take my own food, never rely on other people. Or Christmases, I can't rely on my nan, unfortunately, because she always likes to make yummy food. So I have to take my own food and take it all everywhere.
And that must be very difficult in terms of, as you said, those social things, like your nan not being able to cook Christmas lunch for you anymore. Then that really impacts on those social relationships and things as well. Is that right?
Yeah, so pretty much I think the last 2 Christmases I've just had meat because I forgot to take my own food, so I was only able to eat the meat.
None of the salads. Yeah. Thank you so much, Brooke. So as you can see, food intolerances and allergies have such a profound impact on people's lives. So the more that we can do to prevent them, the better. But what you'll find interesting is that one of the most important things that you can do to prevent allergies and intolerances is actually during pregnancy and as you introduce foods. So what I want to do is I want to give you 5 tips on how to reduce the risk of allergies and intolerances for your children. Before I start, I'd just like to ask you, is there anybody who has an idea on why we have such increased rates of allergies and intolerances in Australia? Any ideas? So I had a suggestion down here that it's because food is so processed. That could be part of it. Yep. And I think like all of these types of chronic diseases, it probably is a multifactorial thing. So it's probably not one specific answer, but probably lots of things that are all working together. So let's have a look. Oh, actually, first of all, I'll just go through the stats. So just so that you know, so we've actually seen a 12-fold increase to specialists in terms of allergies and intolerances over the last few years, and a 5-fold increase in hospitalisation for food-related anaphylaxis. And what I just want to do is explain the difference between a intolerance and an allergy. So an allergy is something that causes an anaphylactic reaction and has an actual immune cell response. And so that's like a peanut allergy where your immune cells are produced and can actually be life-threatening. Whereas intolerances are never life-threatening. They do no damage to your health at all. They just cause uncomfortable symptoms. So you may get similar symptoms between the two. So whether it's altered bowel motions, diarrhea or constipation, it might be bloating, it might be itching, scratching, coughing. So they can have similar types of reactions, and that's where, again, you want to make sure that any of these types of things that you get diagnosed by a dietitian or some type of health professional. So what can we do to prevent them? So first of all is making sure that you're eating enough fish during pregnancy. So the reason for that is that the research shows that omega-3 fatty acids are very, very important for our immune levels and for reducing our risk of allergies and intolerances. And one of the things that I see as a dietitian is that there are a lot of women now who are very scared to eat fish during pregnancy because of the risk of listeria and mercury toxicity. So the guidelines actually recommend that we try to eat fish 2 to 3 times a week during pregnancy, but you just need to be careful of the type of fish that you eat. So I would recommend that you try and eat a salmon, like a cooked salmon, about once a week. Why salmon is such a good choice is because it's the fish that's got the highest amount of omega-3, so those good fatty acids that are protective against allergies and intolerances. And those, so salmon's got about 2,000 milligrams of omega-3 in it compared to other fish that's got about 200 milligrams of omega-3 in it. And salmon also has very, very low mercury levels. So you don't have to worry about the mercury toxicity with salmon. It's a very safe type of fish. But just make sure that it's cooked really well, and probably I'd recommend preparing it at home if possible, so that it's nice and safe in terms of listeria. You obviously don't want to be having raw salmon, but make sure that it's well cooked. But it's a really quick and easy choice and a very nutritious choice. The second thing that I'd recommend doing is having some tinned tuna or tinned salmon, but tinned tuna probably just for a bit of variety. Tinned tuna is a great choice again because, again, it's very low in mercury and it's got that omega-3 in it. And so it makes a great lunch choice when you're out and about. So just add it to some rice and veggies or something along those lines, and it's just going to be a very convenient choice for you. Because most of the tuna is farmed, again, you can be quite confident that it's going to have very low mercury levels. So that's an easy way to make sure that you're getting enough omega-3 fatty acids in your diet. The second thing to do is to make sure that you're having plenty of prebiotics. So who's heard of probiotics? Most people. Okay, so what a probiotic is, probiotics are the good bacteria that we have in foods. So that's things like the good bacteria that we find in yogurt, or the good bacteria that we find in different supplements. You can often get things like the Inner Health Plus supplements and Yakult that you can take. And that's when you actually are taking a dose of good bacteria to top up the good bacteria in your gut microbiome. So it's really interesting, and the research in this area is really strong, that the healthier gut microbiome that we have, the less allergies and intolerances our children are going to have. So what prebiotics are is different than probiotics. So probiotics is when you're actually having that good bacteria. Prebiotics are foods that help your gut to flourish in the area of of growing. So it's the foods that good bacteria grow off. So those types of foods are the best types of foods for our good bacteria to flourish and grow. Legumes, whole grains, and vegetables. Now, I'm going to ask you another question. Who in the audience has had legumes, so chickpeas or baked beans or lentils or kidney beans in the last week? Hands up. Well, that's pretty good. Much better than yesterday. So the recommendations are actually that we have legumes at least twice a week. And again, some good ways to get legumes into your diet is to actually mix them with other foods. So if you're making up a stew or a casserole, I'd recommend adding just a can of red kidney beans or some type of beans to that stew. They're also great in soups. So whether you puree them through a soup or you add a tin to a minestrone soup or something like that. And again, they're a really great lunch choice. Because they come in a can, they're going to be a very safe choice in terms of listeria for you to take to work with you. You can get those little cans that you just need to open and drain and then add that to a salad. So legumes are very, very good as a prebiotic to help all of that good gut bacteria to grow. Now, in terms of getting that good gut bacteria to your growing baby, there's three main ways that happens. So firstly, while you're pregnant, you actually are continually transferring your gut bacteria through to your baby. And that's why what you eat during pregnancy it's setting up all of your baby's gut bacteria and your baby's gut microbiome for the rest of their life. Secondly, the research shows is the form of delivery. So if you're able to have a natural birth compared to a Caesar, as the baby goes through the birth canal, they actually get drenched in all of your good gut microbiome, which is very, very healthy to get them started with that good gut microbiome. And the research shows that a good, healthy gut microbiome for your baby will set up their immunity for life. It really helps in terms of not only allergies, but also rates of obesity and diabetes and a whole range of different chronic health diseases. The third way is breastfeeding. So as you breastfeed, you actually will have some of that good, healthy gut microbiome bacteria that is transferred through your breast milk as well. And so you're actually, whenever you're breastfeeding, you're actually passing on that good gut microbiome bacteria through to your baby in that means as well. So there's quite a few different ways to be able to set up your baby's immune system for the rest of their life. Okay, number 3, and this would be one of the most important ways of preventing allergies and intolerances for your baby. And the researchers just really discovered this over the last few years, and it's amazing how many people I talk to who are actually making a big mistake here. And that is that you actually want to be including allergens during your pregnancy and then introducing them early on to your baby. So our top allergens tend to be wheat, dairy, eggs, and fish, and nuts. So those 5. Now you actually want to make sure that unless you have a very severe allergy or intolerance to those nutrients, you actually want to be eating them during your pregnancy because, again, those nutrients is actually helping to build up your baby's exposure to those allergens and helping to build up their intolerance to them in small amounts while they're able to. So try and eat them regularly throughout your pregnancy if you possibly can. If you're unable to, because of the fact that you have your own allergies or intolerances, please speak to a healthcare professional so that we can give you advice about what to do in those instances. And I should say there as well, going on from that after you deliver, so you want to make sure that you're still having those allergens while you're breastfeeding as well. And then you want to make sure that you're actually having those allergens or giving those allergens to your baby in their first year of life. So obviously you can't go giving little ones nuts, but you can give them some peanut butter. And what we often recommend, particularly if your baby has a very high risk of allergies and intolerances because maybe you've got a family history of them, then what we would recommend is that some parents choose to actually go to the hospital and park in the car park of a hospital and give their baby their first taste of some peanut butter there, just so that they're close by if there is a concern. But you want to make sure that, again, that you're giving your child small regular doses of these allergens to try and build up their immunity to them, because their bodies need to be able to have that immunity so that they can digest those allergens properly. So don't just avoid having them altogether. Number 4 is to make sure that you breastfeed for as long as possible. So even if you need to stop breastfeeding early for some reason, what you might be able to do is do a bit of mixed feeding or a bit of top-up feeds. So even when you are introducing solids to your little one, if you can do some additional breastfeeds, again, you're transferring all of that good bacteria to your baby, and so that's going to be very, very safe and very protective for them as well. And it's interesting again to see that as much as in terms of formula these days, the formula companies are working very, very hard to try and work out what is it about breast milk that's so protective against allergies and intolerances, and what can they do to really optimize them. And so they're adding all sorts of things like prebiotics and omega-3 and so forth to the formula to make it as protective as possible. But the research still shows us that breast milk really is best in that area. And it's amazing how women who are able to breastfeed for longer, their children tend to have less risks of allergies and intolerances. And the final point that I wanted to mention is to make sure that you start introducing solids at the right time. So we talk about a window of opportunity, and that window is between 4 to 6 months. So if you introduce solid foods before 4 months, what we find is that that your baby might not have a well enough developed digestive system, and so it can be a bit too early for them. But if you leave it too late, again, what the research shows is that children are much more likely to have a higher risk of allergies and intolerances with parents who leave introducing solids until too late. So again, we want to make sure that they're getting that exposure, so no later than 6 months. And again, it might not be that they're they're obviously not going to get all of their nutrition from their solid foods in those first few months. What they're going to be doing is just getting enough to be able to have exposure to those allergens, and also they're getting the taste and the texture, and they're just playing around with those foods, which is really good experience for them. So get them playing, get them experimenting, and get them to develop that appreciation for those foods, including those foods with the allergens in them. So they're the 5 points that I wanted to go through with you today. And if you have any further questions, please come and see me. I'll be over at the Priceline marquee. We're going to be selling a copy of one of my books today, which is the Pregnancy Weight Plan. Usually it's $30, but Priceline are just giving a $10 donation for every one sold to the Priceline Sisterhood. So it'd be great if you're interested. And it's actually got meal plans for those women who are trying to fall pregnant for first trimester, second trimester, third trimester, and then breastfeeding as well. Meal plans and exercise plans to give you an idea of what you should be eating to have a really nutritious and healthy pregnancy. So it was lovely to meet you all. And if you've got any questions, as I said, please come and see me. I'd love to have a chat. Thanks so much.